Another school who's probably starting a true freshman at quarterback is up next in the Michigan Wolverines. They won a national title, obviously, in 2023 under Jim Harbaugh. And a little bit of a hangover this past year without him as the head coach. They lost 5 games under Sharon Moore last year. They only lost 3 games in the previous 3 seasons combined. Michigan still had some memorable moments, though, right? They beat Ohio State for a 4th year in a row. They beat Alabama in the bowl game, even though Michigan was down a lot of players in that game, and Alabama was basically at full strength in that game, too. So still some great memories from the 2024 season for Michigan. Just not as good as the previous 3 years were for the Wolverines. The defense was still elite. They were 5th in PFF grade as a unit, but Michigan was a disaster offensively. 3 different quarterbacks started for the Wolverines last year, and they were the 4th worst team in terms of EPA per pass in the Power 4. Still a lot of concerns offensively, but Michigan did bring in the number 1 overall player in the country in the 2025 high school class in quarterback Bryce Underwood, flipping him from LSU, keeping him in state, keeping him home in Michigan. He's the chosen one for the Wolverines, and Dalton, he's already on the cover of EA College Football 26, even though he has not even played a snap yet. A lot of hype right now for Bryce Underwood. Maybe the most hype we've seen, or some of the most hype we've ever seen for a quarterback coming in from high school. But tell me more about their biggest strength is actually the other side of the ball.
Look, on the other side, their defense is going to be really good. Wink Martindale is going to have a really good unit. And look, they lost 2 first-round picks on their defensive line and another draft pick, one in Josiah Stewart, and then the 2 first-rounders, Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. But they're still going to have a really good defensive line when you look at Derek Moore off the edge, TJ Guy, Rayshon Benny inside, even Clemson transfer Trey Williams. This defensive line was the number 1 reason they won ball games last year. It was the biggest reason they beat Ohio State. It was the biggest reason they beat Alabama, their ability to control the game. We'll see if this may be a slight drop-off with especially inside Graham and Grant leaving, but still an extremely talented unit. I even think somebody like Jayshon Barham can play off the edge a little bit and help him there as opposed to at linebacker. He's probably going to do a little bit of both, but the talent base that you have on this defensive line and then obviously the creativity from Wink Martindale that comes with it, that's what's going to keep Michigan in games just like it did last year.
The highest graded defensive line in 2022 and the highest graded defensive line in 2023 and 2024. So the highest graded D-line in each of the last 2 years, still my number 6 D-line heading into 2025 with guys like Derek Moore and Rayshon Benny and even TJ Guy, really good player too, coming back to that defensive line. The weakness is, they got the quarterback, theoretically, in Bryce Underwood coming in, but the supporting cast for him still isn't great offensively. Michigan was last year 102nd in receiving grade last year, and they just lost Colston Loveland, who was picked 10th overall by the Chicago Bears in the 2025 NFL Draft. Michigan was also 99th in offensive line grade, and they lost 2 starters from that unit too. So the offensive line and that receiving core weren't very good last year. Now you take away a first-round top 10 pick at tight end too. I'm a little worried about the supporting cast from Michigan right now with Dalton. Tell me more about what should be the savior of Michigan football, Bryce Underwood, one of the highest-rated quarterbacks to ever come out of high school. What should we expect from him in his first year in the Maize and Blue?
I mean, you're looking at a guy who it really is built like if you were going to build a quarterback in the lab, this is what you would want. Listed at 6'4" and 208, but he recently said in an interview that Michigan has him up to 230 pounds, which is just ridiculous to have a freshman quarterback at 6'4" and 230. He says he feels like he's getting even more explosive as an athlete, and the arm talent's apparent. Look, he's got a cannon for an arm, and there's not a whole lot of wind-up to it. It's a quick, compact delivery that can rifle passes downfield. I thought he looked composed in the spring game, especially in the quick game in the more efficient throws closer to the line of scrimmage and working the chains. I think that's going to be a big thing for him. We saw it from a guy like DJ Lagway last year, trying to hit a lot of home runs and then a little bit inefficient underneath. I think Underwood can be efficient on those underneath throws. The supporting cast is a big question. I thought there were some nerves in the spring game a little bit when he threw the ball downfield. There was a few passes that sailed high, still working on the downfield accuracy, and he needs his receivers to separate a little bit better. But honestly, when you look at how he's built and what he has shown so far, you can see why he was the number 1 recruit in the country. The arm, it's easy arm talent. In the same way that we've talked about DJ Lagway over the past year, the ball just explodes out of his hand. He can make any throw on the field.
Yeah, he's a really good runner, too, in high school. So that's another thing to add to that offense, too. Another guy who should be a really good runner in that offense is Justice Haynes, who should take some of the pressure off of Bryce Underwood's shoulders. He was the number 2 running back for Alabama last year. He'll now really be the bell cow back probably for Michigan this year. Still was really impressive last year, even as kind of a backup for the Crimson Tide. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry, which were 6th among all SEC running backs with at least 75 attempts last year. And he had a really good 80.7 rushing grade as well. Very light on his feet. Has great jump cuts at 205 pounds. And like I said, could be a breakout star as the top guy in that Michigan backfield going into next year. But Dalton, like I said before, they have a great defensive line at Michigan, but also a guy that I'm sure a lot of Michigan fans are very excited to get back in Rod Moore.
And I'm excited to see him back, too. The free safety who really, I think this year is going to be the glue that holds the secondary together. He missed last year because he tore his ACL in the spring, but the 2 previous years, per PFF's wins above average metric, he was the second most valuable safety in college football. 6 interceptions over those 2 years. Big part of their national championship winning team in 2023. Just to see him back on the field, because I think Michigan last year, you could see it with him out and with Keon Sabb transferring to Alabama. Then a little more of a struggle covering over the middle of the field. On the outside, they were still great with Will Johnson and Jair Hill, those corners that they always have going there at Michigan, but struggled over the middle. I think Rod Moore is going to be a big piece of fixing that problem. He's got great recovery speed. He's got good eyes back there, and as long as he can run like he used to before the torn ACL, I think Wink Martindale's going to have a lot of fun playing a lot of single high with Rod Moore back at free safety.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see him back at Michigan, too. It was a great player for the Wolverines. All right, Dalton, bottom line time now. Win total is set at 9.5 for Michigan. Vegas thinks it'll be a big bounce back year for the Wolverines. So basically, if they go over, that might be a college football playoff team at 10-2 right there. What do you think for the Michigan Wolverines? Are you taking the over/under, and what's the bottom line for Michigan?
Well, let's state that fact first. If this team goes 10-2, I would bet they're probably going to make the college football playoff. I think
so
that's
too.
been proven. If you're in the Big Ten, and even if those 2 losses are to, say, Oklahoma and Ohio State, which I know that's blasphemous because they haven't lost to Ohio State lately. But no, if this team goes 10-2, they're going to put them in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And that means that Bryce Underwood most likely will have played well enough at quarterback to drive them to 8 to 10 wins on offense. But I'm going to take the under 9.5 there. I think, look, you're talking about a weird quarterback situation. We're talking about Underwood a lot, but he hasn't officially been named the Week 1 starter. It's just kind of expected with the recruiting hype and the money and all that. But they did bring in Mikey Keene, a veteran from Fresno State.
Solid player, yeah.
Solid player, but you're also not a very high ceiling. And the question is, can either of these quarterbacks, most likely Underwood, can they elevate a supporting cast that, for them, honestly, offensively is subpar? Haynes is solid, but in low volume at Alabama. I don't really know what they have at receiver. I mean, they have Samaj Morgan coming back. They brought in Anthony Simpson from UMass, who was a solid player there, but it's a big step up, right?
The O-line I'm worried about too, man.
The O-line that didn't have a single starter last year, grade above a 70, and doesn't look a whole lot better this year. I think the supporting cast is the part that worries me the most, not so much. And then, even then, I know it's Bryce Underwood. I know he's top recruit in the country. He's still a true freshman, Max.
Yep.
And in we're going to find out a lot in week 2 when they have to go to Oklahoma and play Brent Venables and that great defense and a lot of good defenses throughout the Big Ten. I'm not taking this team as a 10-win team. I think maybe one more year to build this supporting cast around Underwood.
I'm taking the under, too. And listen, the O-line did bring in a couple really highly rated recruits. One of them was a 5-star, and Andrew Babalola. Could be a backup right tackle for them this year. And Ty Haywood, too, is a top 50 overall recruit, too. So they have that to look forward to in the future, but I'm taking the under on 9.5, too. I think expectations should be tempered for Bryce Underwood. I get it. He's got so much talent, but Dalton, we've seen time and time again, you need a supporting cast around a quarterback. And I'm worried about the supporting cast still for Michigan right now with that receiving core, with that offensive line. Justice Haynes, I like at running back, but he's not like a superstar at running back either. There's a lot of questions still on offense. Listen, they fixed the biggest problem with the offense last year, or hopefully should fix it, by getting Bryce Underwood in. But everywhere else, I still have big questions about it. So I like the defense. I love Bryce Underwood's potential. But a true freshman quarterback with that kind of supporting cast around him, I don't think that'll be a playoff team.
They ranked 101st in the country in offensive PFF grade last year. And they lost their three leading rushers and Colston Loveland at tight end, who was basically their entire. I think he accounted for somewhere near half their receiving yards. Yeah. So look, Underwood's not going to go in there and throw for 5,000 yards with this team. It's not going to happen. You just hope. What you hope for, and it's ironic because his first big game starting will be against this team, but you would hope that what happened to Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma does not happen here at Michigan with Underwood, because there's way, way too much at stake with Underwood carrying this team into the future and everything they spent to get him. Way too much at stake. They have to find a way this year to develop talent internally to support him. And then next year, I do wonder if maybe next offseason they hit the portal pretty hard for a supporting cast.
They should.
Because you can't let a talent like this go to waste.
They need to hit the portal hard for receivers is what they need to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they really should do. I think, again, temper the expectations a little bit. I'm excited to watch Bryce Underwood, of course, but just temper it a little bit. I get it. He's on the cover of EA College Football 26. I get it. He's one of the highest rated quarterbacks ever. I get it. You're hoping that he has like a Trevor Lawrence type of impact too, or Lawrence won a national title in his freshman year, but Lawrence also had a super team around him at Clemson that year too. Don't think it's the case for Michigan this year. So I think it'll be improved at quarterback from what they had last year. Don't think it'll be enough to make the college football playoff, though, in 2025.